Hi, my name is Raudel Garza. I'm the CEO for Harlingen Economic Development Corporation. Today, I want to talk a little bit about HELP, Harlingen's Emergency Loan Program. It's a $1 million fund that was created by the City Commission and the Harlingen EDC Board of Directors so that we could reach out to small businesses and help small businesses in this time of crisis with having to deal with the COVID-19. Very early on in the process, when we first started looking at what kind of impact COVID was going to have on our community, a lot of us decided that we needed to learn more about what was happening in our community. And so staff came up with a survey that basically asked some questions such as, were you still open? Were you laying off people? How is COVID impacting your business? And those types of questions to help us try to understand more about what was going on. Once we've gotten enough respondents for that survey and understood some of what was being asked for, we came up with a program, and this program is HELPS. Harlingen Help is really designed for small businesses. So I'm going to go through some of the eligibility requirements. I'm going to go through the process of application. But before I do that, I do want to acknowledge that this program is here because the Board of Directors and the City Commission really wanted to push some assistance out to the small business community, which we all saw was suffering through the closures and the executive orders that were coming through. So with that, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about the program itself. So starting tomorrow, May 1st, we're going to be looking at accepting applications to the Harlingen Emergency Loan Program, Harlingen Help. Basically, this is for loans that are up to $10,000, a term that is going to be amortized over 3 to 5 years, and repayments that will not begin for at least a year. And then there's an eligibility component to this program as well. And that's how I'm going to go through the process in just a minute. Really, what we want you to spend this money on is expenditures such as your operating expenses, payroll costs, rent, utilities, cost of goods sold, your inventory, and other ordinary costs of doing business that are going to be outlined in this program. The repayment terms are something that we decided to make as flexible as possible. We hope that this crisis is over within the next year, and at that time is when we're going to ask for people to start paying back the loan. And so depending on a borrower's ability to pay, that will be either a 36 to 60 month payback. And the only thing we're asking for in terms of collateral is a personal guarantee that's going to be signed by those people who actually take out the loan. But this isn't for everybody. In order to qualify for a HELP loan of up to $10,000, the applicant must have applied to an EIDL, or Economic Injuries Disaster Loan, or also a PPP, or Paycheck Protection Program loan. The EIDL was a program, or is a program, that is administered by the Small Business Administration. And we have heard now that that program is very tough to come by in terms of approvals and whatnot. So we understand that, and we're going to make arrangements for that in just a minute. The same thing with PPP. Very early on, there was a huge demand, and now there's a second allocation of funds from the federal government for these two programs. And we understand that the demand is so great that a lot of people may not have access to these programs. So if you are amongst one of those people that got lucky enough to get into a PPP or an EIDL, this does not preclude you from signing on to this HELP program. But really, we're looking at those who have not reached out to the Small Business Administration or the local lender because they couldn't get in time. But every case is different, and so we're going to allow for people to go ahead and tell us about their case and tell us about what they need so that we can try to help as much as we can. So aside from pushing people to make sure that they reach out to all the other resources that are out there, we also want to try to target only those people who have suffered a 25% or greater loss of revenue during this crisis period. And so basically from mid-March through today, if you've lost more than 25% of revenues, then that would be one of the eligibility requirements that we're looking for. If you're a new business that hasn't been in business for more than a year, then we're going to take a 6-month average of your previous revenues and look at that versus what your revenues are during this time period. You also have to have no more than 25 employees in Harlingen. So if your business has a lot of part-time help, well, those part-timers can add up to 2 positions in many cases, and thus you'll look at what the full-time equivalent definition is. So if you have 25 or fewer full-time equivalent employees in Harlingen, then that's another eligibility requirement. And finally, you have to stay in Harlingen. This is why we're lending this money out. It's eligible only for people who are, or businesses that are actually located within Harlingen city limits. So once you fill out the help application, which we're going to go through in a minute, there's going to be some other forms that you'll have to fill out as well, and copies that you can turn in. These are going to be outlined on this page on the website. So the personal financial statement, a schedule of liabilities, and monthly sales figures, which actually helps us to determine whether or not you meet that 25% loss in revenues, are the documents that you'll have to complete online, and then even upload some of the other documentation that we are going to be asking for. So right now, before May 1st, you can start gathering your information on your profit and loss statements, your balance sheets, previous tax returns. And if you've been applying for different programs, then you have most of this information already. And then you'll be able to upload those documents and apply starting tomorrow. Once you do apply and you hit that button that says apply May 1st, you're going to come up to a page that basically starts the application process. We'll ask for an email because that's really how we're going to contact you. And then we're going to go through some information about you as the applicant. We're going to go through the business information. So you tell us the legal name, the trade name if it's different, your business phone number, your federal EIN, identification number, what type of business entity you are, whether you're a partnership, a sole proprietor, a corporation, LLC, or something else, what your address is. And then you have to tell us a little bit about what you do, and then the number of employees that you actually have on payroll before COVID-19. So that would be around the March 1st area. And then tell us how long you've been in business. If you've been in business 25 years, tell us when you actually started business. If you've been in business for two years, then tell us when you started in business. And then finally, make sure you give us your contact information, because if we have any questions, we want to reach out to you. After you fill out that information, you come on to the second page, and we're going to ask you some questions. If you have received an SBA EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, click yes. And then if you have received the funding, we want to know how much. The same thing with the Paycheck Protection Program. If you click yes, then it's going to ask you to whether or not you've received the funds and accepted the loan. If you have, that does not make you ineligible for the program. It's just information that we need to know and we'd like to know. So that's what's going to pop up. If you click no, there won't be a follow-up question. Then we ask you about the 25% loss versus last year. And so, and also the other eligibility requirements about payroll in terms of how many jobs you have. We continue on, and there's some other questions about property taxes, making sure that you're current on your property taxes and your payroll taxes. And then finally, we want to make sure that you don't actually have a first degree affiliation with anybody that's either on the committee, a board member, or an appointed official for the City of Harlingen, because that would probably make you ineligible. It doesn't necessarily say it will be, but it will be. Then finally, this is probably the most important part of the application. We want you to tell us about your business. We want you to tell us what your economic need is. What are you going to use the monies for? And then you can upload the necessary requirements in terms of federal tax returns, balance sheets, some payroll information if necessary, everything you need us to know about your business so that we can make a determination as to your eligibility. Once you get through that, we're going to ask some more information. If there's more than one owner or general partner in the business, we want to know who they are, and we want to know what your percentage of ownership is. And then we've asked some other questions regarding insolvencies, bankruptcies, lawsuits, tax liens, judgments, and that type of thing. And then finally, once we've done with that, tell us who's actually going to be the point of contact for this application. And then a certification regarding the information that you've submitted. And after that, you click submit, and you are basically done with the application. So if you have any questions, our staff is here to answer those questions for you. You just call us at 216-5082, ask for Tanya or ask for myself, Raul del Garza, and we'll be glad to walk you through it again. Again, because of COVID, we're still trying to minimize our face-to-face in-person contact. If we have to, we will, and we'll make arrangements accordingly. But otherwise, please work on getting the information online. And again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to help you.